Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 27 female, used to be in a long-term relationship with Tom, 34 male. We dated for 2 years before I moved into his house and agreed that I would pay for utilities while he covered the mortgage and taxes. After being together for 4 years, I discovered that he was cheating on me when I walked in on him and the other woman after coming home from an out-of-town trip early. I was understandably angry, yelled at both of them, and tearfully packed up some things and stayed at a friend's house for a week. When I came back, the locks were changed, and Tom had blocked me on everything. It took a court order to get me back in, and by then he'd already sold or thrown away a lot of my things to appease his new girlfriend, and he knew that I didn't have enough money to fight him in court for all of it. I was really in a low place, and to make myself feel better, I ended up having a one-night stand with a friend, Clark, 28 male, and ended up pregnant. I was already officially out of Tom's house when I found out, and we were in zero contact. So I decided to test Clark first, and he was the father. Since Clark was the father, and I didn't see the point in telling Tom that I was pregnant, and just started planning my life accordingly. Clark also inherited a nice house and insisted I live there to make things easier on my finances, as well as give us both equal access to our child. While I was out baby shopping, I ran into Tom's sister. She was completely surprised at how visibly pregnant I was. I made a quick excuse to leave with a vague and fake promise that I'd be in contact later. It was really an awkward way to get out of an uncomfortable situation politely. A few days later, my phone was blowing up with calls and texts from Tom asking me about the baby. I ignored him, but then he showed up at my parents' home demanding to speak with me. Tom was convinced that I was pregnant with his kid and was going to blindside him with a court order for child support after the baby was born out of spite. It would also align with his planned promotion, and he didn't want to be perceived as a deadbeat parent. The company he works at is big on morality. I told Tom to leave me and my family alone, but he wanted me to sign an NDA about anything that would happen between us in family court to protect his reputation. I told him that he wasn't the father, but he thought that I was lying now to blindside him later and offered me his house. He was going to get a new one to pay for my silence. I agreed, and when he was fully moved out, I mailed him the test results when Clark was tested. Tom now thinks I was being a manipulative witch, but it wasn't my fault he didn't believe me when I initially said he wasn't the father. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Since there seems to be some confusion, even though I already wrote it, I'll say it again. I told Tom he wasn't the father after he started harassing my family, but he chose not to believe me. Edit 2. Yes, my parents knew Clark was the father, and even told Tom too. Tom just didn't believe us. Edit 3. Just because I keep seeing the same questions and comments. 1. Yes, I officially own the house. He signed the title over to me the same day I signed the NDA. 2. The NDA is in regards to me identifying him and talking about him on social media, calling his job, etc. 3. The house is a small 3-bedroom house that is now fully paid off. 4. Tom technically did ask for a DNA test, but I told him he'd have to wait until after the baby was born and pay for it himself if he wanted one so badly. 5. Tom and I kept our finances separate, so I don't know nor care how he's going to manage after this. Not the a-hole, I think. Was this entirely ethical? Probably not. Did he have it coming? Kinda, yeah. You told him the truth, and he chose not to believe you and throw a house your way to shut him up. You could have just showed him the test results, I guess. But he did kinda owe you after throwing out all your stuff, so screw it. Not the a-hole. I was fully expecting to call you the a-hole based on the title. But if he willingly offered the house after you already told him the kid isn't his, then by all means, take it. I'm torn on this one. Yes, it was manipulative, if he made the offer, not you. And you did try telling him once that he wasn't the father. On the other hand, you could have just shown him the papers and been done with it. I'm going with not the a-hole, but barely. He cheated, and karma hit him hard. I'll be honest, my sister and I have never had the best relationship. She's 15 years older than me, so maybe we didn't have much of a connection, and she's always been resentful towards me. She's treated me like an outcast and would often turn her kids against me and encourage them to insult me, disrespect me, and treat me like dirt. My mom would always tell me to be the bigger person, so I would always forgive when they would apologize or act all nice again. During virus lockdowns, my sister and her husband, not my niece's father, kicked her out because my sister was having her many mood swings. She has 4 other children and got them to participate in kicking out my niece. She called me, and I quickly went to pick her up, and I met her on the curb with trash bags and my sister refusing to open the door. So I took her in my home where she stayed for 6 months, and she even secured an apartment. Once my niece, 20 at the time, got her apartment, my sister and her husband convinced her to move back in, and my niece did. And then the same niece turned on me. And I felt very sad because she was in my home, and I did everything for her when her own mom discarded her like trash. Fast forward to 2021. She does the same thing with her 16 male son, and he called me, and again, I picked him up and let him stay. At the time, my now husband and I were planning a wedding, and of course, regardless of our differences, there was no way I couldn't invite my sister and her kids. Also, it was in the height of virus restrictions, so we were very limited and the church only accepted close family. When I invited my sister, her and her kids ridiculed me. My sister even said that my attitude is too disgusting to get married. They're not coming because I don't deserve to get married. They even blocked me, except my niece who promised she'll be there and promised to act as a witness. The day of, she didn't show up. No call, no nothing. Thankfully, the photographer was nice enough to be a second witness for us. My mom called my niece asking why she did this. My niece said, "I don't even know what kind of wedding it is. I don't see the point in all this," then hung up. I was broken and in tears. I know my sister put them up to it, but I thought my niece would have risen above it, given all I've done for her when my sister, her mom, did what she did to her. I moved on, but I vowed to never speak to them again. My husband and I are happily married, and we have a new baby and we're thriving. Now my niece has met someone and she's getting married. My mom told me to mark my calendar because we're going. I refused and reminded her of what they did on my wedding. My mom told me to stop living in the past and be the bigger person. I even cried to her, and she gave me a blank stare, then told me that no one thinks about her and that I'll regret my actions when she dies. She says I'm being incredibly selfish and bitter, and she's shocked that I'm not over it. I'm still refusing to go. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Tell Mom you will not go to the wedding. You have been pushed around and taken advantage of by your sister and her family your entire life. You are done with them. If Mom can understand, let her attend alone. Let your sister and her spawn spew their venom on her. Not the a-hole. At every turn you have acted with love, compassion, kindness, and honor. And in every instance, it was thrown back in your face, usually after costing you considerable time, energy, and money. Standing up for yourself and your right to basic respect and dignity is not bad. I'm sorry that you've been treated so shabbily, and even more sorry that your mom has essentially betrayed your trust by downplaying your hurt and siding with your aggressors. You are building a new family now with your husband and sweet new baby, and your friends. This new family will cherish you and be grateful for all your kindness. Stick with your new family and let the family of origin go. There's no place for you there. Go where you're loved and stay there. Not the a-hole. Don't go and let your mother wallow in her tantrum. Do your sister and niece even want you there? I can certainly see where your sister learned her narcissism. Neither seem to put anyone but themselves first. Your mother clearly doesn't care about your feelings, your self-respect, or your mental health. She wants to play happy family at your expense. You have a beautiful new family to protect from their verbal and emotional aggressions. Don't feel guilty about staying away from people who aren't capable of healthy relationships. My grandma died recently, and it created a lot of family drama. Basically, everyone expected her to leave their house, land, family heirlooms, and a small amount of money to the 3 siblings, my dad, my aunt, and my uncle. But instead, she left big things to them, but a lot of the smaller sentimental stuff to grandkids, plus about $20,000 per grandkid. But she didn't actually leave it to all the grandkids, only her 3 biological grandkids. The other 5 were just completely left out of anything. I have 2 step-siblings that come from my dad's side, but aren't biologically his, plus a half-brother from my mom's other relationship. My aunt also has two formerly foster, now adopted kids who were also excluded. Most of the grandkids are underage, so the adults are more just quietly redistributing the money and items, or in some cases supplementing it with their own money, and then planning to just tell the kids it's from grandma. It seems like the net will be about $10,000 for each of the 8 grandkids, rather than $20,000 for the 3 bio grandkids. But my parents want me to A. Give up a specific item that's traditionally meant for the oldest granddaughter, because I'm the oldest bio granddaughter, but not the oldest granddaughter. B. Give them half the money to put in an account for my stepsister's college fund. She's 16. C. Promise not to say anything ever so the non-bio kids don't feel bad. I think they chose my stepsister on purpose, because technically they could have said give us half the money for cousin X, or to be split between X, Y, and Z cousins. But instead, they chose my stepsister because we're close. My first instinct was definitely yes, because it just seemed fair, and I do love my stepsister. We grew up together. I'm really only using terms like step, etc. for this post. Basically, everyone is considered siblings and cousins. I don't agree with my grandma's choice, and I actually think it's a little or at least narrow-minded. Plus, everyone in the family, or at least the adults, will know I refuse, and I do like my family and am close to them. But, on the other hand, my step-siblings definitely already have a little more money than me, even before this, because they have money from other sources and my parents, whereas I just have money from my parents. So, for example, my parents are putting the same amount of money into each kid's college fund, but my step-siblings have their bio mom contributing to theirs as well. So redistributing feels a little weird in that light. I have about $30,000 in student loans that I'd love to make a $20,000 dent in. Honestly, I'm pretty sure if I said no, my parents would just give my stepsister the $10,000 out of their own pockets, which would sort of be a win-win for both of us. A lot of advice I've seen says not to bow to family pressure on stuff like this. But also, I'd feel really bad, and my parents are sort of saying we're not trying to force you, but not the a-hole. Your grandmother left things to the people she wanted her things to go to, as was her right. You would not be an a-hole for honoring her wishes and keeping the things she left you. I would definitely not cave on giving up an item she left you. She had her reasons for doing so, and likely wanted to keep them in the family. I'm not saying stepkids aren't family, but if the parents in question divorce, then those items may not necessarily be in the family anymore. And it sounds like your grandmother divided her will to keep sentimental items squarely in the family. Edit. Also adding that the fact that your grandma didn't leave everything to her children is telling. She probably worried about how they would divide things up, so she didn't leave them everything. Instead, she chose what to leave each person individually. I wouldn't go against her wishes to appease my family. I also think there are legal issues for them just arbitrarily dividing up the underage kids' inheritance. Not the a-hole. Just ask yourself this. Why does the money for your stepsister have to come out of your cut of the inheritance, instead of your parents, who got a larger share? Seems a bit odd they are asking you to give up 50%, instead of them giving up a smaller percentage. As to the heirloom, that is yours to keep. I'm sure someone had an idea of who would get what, as these kind of things are shared, and though instead of pressuring your grandmother to give it to someone else, it would be easier to pressure you. Not the a-hole. Your step-siblings have biological relatives to pitch in. I doubt your parents are going to push them to send you money. I feel like I need an unbiased emotional perspective. I, 28 female, was 15 weeks pregnant when I lost my fiancé. He had been in an accident at his bachelor party and experienced a TBI. He was in a coma for a while, but it was pretty clear immediately after the accident that he likely wouldn't recover at all. I was obviously heartbroken for a lot of reasons, but something that particularly haunted me was feeling like our child would never have anything from their father. He wasn't very materialistic, so I didn't really have any sentimental items of his to pass on. The only thing I have is my dress. It's not traditional, but he picked the wedding dress. We saw it when we were at a second-hand shop looking for cheap furniture. He said that when he imagined our wedding, he imagined me in a dress like that one. My mother-in-law had it preserved for me after his funeral, and I decided that when my child got old enough, it would be theirs. The baby is a boy. He's 4 now, so I don't think he'll be wearing the dress. But if he does, that's fine. If he gets engaged to someone and that person wants to wear it, I'd be all right with that too. My sister Faith, 25 female, is getting married in the fall. She called me a few days ago and asked if she could be able to wear my dress for her wedding. I explained to her why I wasn't comfortable with letting her use it, as I planned to pass it down to my son since his father chose it. She said that she doubted my son would ever actually wear the thing, and that I'm doing my fiancé an injustice by letting the dress he picked sit in a box collecting dust. I told her again that I wouldn't be letting her borrow it, and then hung up. Our mom called me and said that my sister is hurt because she had her heart set on that dress, and she wanted to share this special moment with me. I said that I'd be willing to go dress shopping with her, and we can have a special moment then. But my mother told me that I'm being selfish, and that I should be happy that someone will actually get to walk down the aisle in my dress. Still though, I told her I wasn't changing my mind. Most of my family is saying it's unfortunate I never got to wear it, but that I should be happy my sister wants to. I'm not really second-guessing my decision, but I am feeling a little guilty about it. I just want some unbiased opinions on this. Edited to add. When we were going through the wedding preparations, my sister was there when I tried on the dress after it was altered. She's into vintage fashion, and she said she really loved the style of the dress and pointed out that it was probably worth more than my fiancé paid for it. It's possible that the driving factor behind her having her heart set on it is because it happens to fit into her interests, but I don't know. Also, my son and I visit my mother-in-law almost every weekend, so I might just bring the dress over there with me and ask her to keep it for me. Not the a-hole. I think what you are saving that dress for is beautiful in itself. I'm sure your child will think so too when he's older. There are millions of wedding dresses to choose from. She doesn't need that one. Not the a-hole. She should never have asked to wear it. I don't understand why people even thought it was appropriate. Of course you don't want someone wearing something with such emotional attachment to it. Also, your mom's comment was awful. She also gets a-hole points. Not the a-hole. I think your reasoning is beautiful. I think your sister and mother are being cheap. They may have to alter the dress so it fits your sister better, I don't know. And then it would not be the dress that your fiancé had picked out. Personally, so they can't steal the dress anyway, I would ask your mother-in-law to hold on to the dress for a little while.